The night everything changed. The evening air carried a gentle chill as Sarah walked home from her shift at Murphy's Diner, her footsteps echoing softly on the quiet downtown streets. The warm glow from restaurant windows and streetlights created pools of amber light along the sidewalk, while the distant hum of the city settled into its nighttime rhythm. After 8 hours on her feet, Sarah felt the familiar ache in her legs, but there was something peaceful about these late-night walks home that helped her unwind from the demands of serving customers and balancing plates. At 27, Sarah had been working at Murphy's for almost 4 years now, ever since she moved to the city with dreams of becoming a nurse. Those dreams felt distant now, put on hold by the reality of rent payments and the need to support herself while slowly saving money for nursing school. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore her comfortable walking shoes, the kind that could handle long shifts without complaint. The streets were mostly empty at this hour, with only the occasional car passing by and the soft sounds of the city settling into sleep. Sarah enjoyed these quiet moments, when she could think about her future plans and the small steps she was taking toward her goals. Every dollar she saved brought her closer to being able to afford the nursing program that would change her life. As she turned the corner onto Maple Street, Sarah noticed something that made her pause. An elderly man was sitting on the sidewalk near the entrance to an alley, leaning against the brick wall of a closed shop. His gray hair was disheveled, and his clothes looked worn and tired. What caught her attention most, though, was the way he was breathing, short, shallow gasps that immediately triggered her concern. Sarah had grown up as the daughter of a paramedic, and her father had taught her basic first aid from a young age. Later, when she started taking pre-nursing courses at the community college, she had learned even more about recognizing medical emergencies. Something about the man's posture and breathing patterns sent alarm bells ringing in her mind. "Sir," she called out gently, approaching him with careful steps. "Are you okay?" The man looked up at her with tired eyes, and she could see the strain in his face. He appeared to be in his 60s, with kind features that spoke of someone who had lived a full life but was currently struggling with something serious. I'm having trouble breathing," he said quietly, his voice strained. "Just need to rest for a minute." Sarah knelt down beside him, her training taking over. She could see that his skin had a slightly grayish tone, and his breathing was definitely labored. These were signs she recognized from her coursework, possible symptoms of a heart attack or severe respiratory distress. "What's your name?" she asked, keeping her voice calm and reassuring while she observed his condition more carefully. "Harold," he said, managing a weak smile. "Harold Montgomery." Sarah felt a flash of recognition. She had heard that name before, though she couldn't quite place where. But that wasn't important right now. What mattered was getting this man the help he needed. "Harold, I think you might be having a medical emergency," Sarah said gently. "I'm going to call an ambulance, and I'm going to stay with you until they get here, okay?" She pulled out her phone and dialed 911, giving the dispatcher their location and describing Harold's symptoms with the precision she had learned in her medical courses. While they waited, she helped Harold into a more comfortable position and monitored his breathing, offering quiet reassurance and keeping him talking to help maintain his alertness. "You seem to know what you're doing," Harold said, his breathing still labored but his eyes showing gratitude. "I'm studying to be a nurse," Sarah explained, checking his pulse at his wrist. "My father was a paramedic, so I learned some things growing up. Just try to breathe slowly and steadily for me." The ambulance arrived within minutes, and Sarah stepped back to let the paramedics take over. But before they loaded Harold onto the stretcher, he reached out and grasped her hand. "Thank you," he said, his voice sincere despite his weakness. "You may have saved my life tonight." "What's your name?" "Sarah," she said, squeezing his hand gently. "Sarah from Murphy's Diner on 5th Street. Harold nodded, as if committing that information to memory. "Thank you, Sarah from Murphy's Diner. I won't forget your kindness." As the ambulance drove away into the night, Sarah continued her walk home, thinking about the encounter and hoping that Harold would be okay. She had done what anyone with her training would do, but something about the man's grateful eyes stayed with her as she finally reached her small apartment. 3 days later, Sarah was working the morning shift at Murphy's when a man in an expensive suit walked through the front door. He looked around the diner with interest, as if seeing it for the first time, though something about his presence suggested he was no ordinary customer. Sarah, he asked, approaching her station with a warm smile. She looked up from wiping down a table, surprised to hear her name from a stranger. Yes, that's me. Can I help you? My name is James Richardson, he said, extending his hand. I'm here on behalf of Harold Montgomery. You helped him on Maple Street 3 nights ago. Sarah's eyes widened with recognition and concern. Harold, is he okay? I've been worried about him. He's doing very well, thanks to you, James said. The doctors said that if you hadn't recognized the signs and called for help when you did, he might not have made it. You literally saved his life. Relief flooded through Sarah. I'm so glad he's okay. I just did what anyone would do. James smiled knowingly. That's exactly what Harold said you would say. But Sarah, there's something Harold wanted me to tell you. He's not just any ordinary person you helped that night. Sarah looked at him curiously, waiting for him to continue. Harold Montgomery is the founder and CEO of Montgomery Restaurant Group, James explained. They own over 300 restaurants across the country, including this diner. Sarah's mouth fell open in shock. He owns Murphy's Diner, among many others, James confirmed. But more importantly, he wanted me to find the young woman who saved his life, because he has a proposition for you. James pulled out an envelope and handed it to Sarah. Harold was impressed not just by your quick thinking, but by your medical knowledge and the calm way you handled the emergency. He's been looking for someone to head up a new employee wellness program across all his restaurants, someone with medical training who understands the service industry. Sarah opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a job offer with a salary that was more than double what she made at the diner, plus full benefits and tuition assistance for completing her nursing degree. He wants to hire me. Sarah asked in disbelief. He wants to invest in you, James corrected. Harold believes that people who show compassion and competence in crisis situations are exactly the kind of people he wants leading initiatives in his company. The job would allow you to finish nursing school while gaining valuable experience in healthcare management. Sarah sat down heavily in the nearest booth, overwhelmed by the turn her life was taking. I can't believe this is real. It's very real, James said gently. Harold wanted me to tell you that kindness should always be rewarded, and that your actions that night showed him the kind of person you are. Someone who sees a stranger in need and doesn't hesitate to help. As Sarah looked around the diner where she had worked for 4 years, dreaming of a different future, she realized that sometimes the most unexpected encounters can change the entire course of our lives. Her father had always taught her to help others when she could, never knowing that one evening, helping a stranger on a quiet street would open doors she had never even imagined. The path to her dreams had just become not only possible, but inevitable, all because she had chosen compassion over convenience on a late-night walk home.